It's not just you go up once and you have to do it multiple. You have to get the right shot,
we
right?
did 50 times.
Right.
Like this.
Wow.
Like this. 50 times like that.
Gary Sinise spent decades playing heroes on screen. Lieutenant Dan, Detective Mac Taylor, astronauts, and presidents. But in 2018, he faced a real-life battle that no script could prepare him for. 2 of his family members were diagnosed with cancer. What happened next forced him to make an impossible choice. He walked away from a career worth hundreds of millions. He learned skills he never wanted to know. And his son Mac left behind something so powerful, it's still changing lives today. Gary Sinise was born on March 17, 1955, in Blue Island, Illinois. His father worked as a film editor, so Hollywood was already in his blood. But if you'd seen Gary as a teenager, you'd never guess he had anything to do with show business. He wasn't chasing good grades or trying to impress anyone. He grew up in a working-class neighborhood where people cared more about hard work than creativity. Even with his dad's connection to the film world, Gary had no interest in following a similar path. Instead, he played in rock bands and barely made it through school. Everything changed in high school, and not because he had some grand plan. At 17, Gary auditioned for West Side Story just for fun. It was a joke to him and his friends, something to kill time. But something unexpected happened. As soon as he read his lines, it clicked. For the first time in his life, he felt focused. That silly audition turned out to be the moment that gave him purpose. He was hooked. Behind that transformation was a drama teacher named Barbara Patterson. She didn't just see a rebellious kid with long hair, she saw raw talent, and she refused to let it go to waste. She cast Gary in the play, but more importantly, she believed in him. She coached him, mentored him, and helped him understand what he was capable of. Her influence didn't stop after one play. She became a guiding force in his life, helping him trade chaos for craft. That shift didn't happen in a vacuum. Gary's family had moved from Blue Island to Highland Park, a wealthier suburb north of Chicago. It was a different world, richer, more structured, more demanding. He didn't fit in right away. He was part Italian, part English, Irish, Scottish, German, Swedish, and French. A blend of everything, but not rooted anywhere. That discomfort pushed him further into rebellion, but it also helped him understand people better. And that skill, understanding people, would later make him such a powerful actor. By 1973, Gary was a high school graduate, or more accurately, he finished as part of the class of 1973 and a half. Just a few months later, he made an outrageous move. At 18, he and 2 friends, Rick Argosh and Leslie Wilson, founded a theater company. No money, no fame, just 3 teenagers, a play called And Miss Reardon Drinks a Little, and a rented church hall in Deerfield. They called the group Steppenwolf, named after a book one of them happened to be reading. By 1975, they found a loophole and took over the name of a failed theater company to save money on registration. In 1976, they moved into the basement of a Catholic church in Highland Park. It was cramped and cold, with barely any equipment, but it became their training ground. Future stars like John Malkovich and Laurie Metcalf joined. They didn't have red carpets or big budgets, just raw talent and grit. Gary wasn't just acting, he was also directing. In 1974, he took on Grease and ran the show from top to bottom. Producer, actor, and director all at once. Then he directed The Glass Menagerie and starred as Tom, balancing both roles like a pro. Most people spend years mastering one job in theater. Gary was doing 3 at 19. His biggest breakthrough came in 1982. Gary directed and co-starred in True West with Malkovich. It wasn't just another play. It was the moment Steppenwolf exploded beyond Chicago. They took the show to New York. Critics loved it. Gary won an Obie Award for Best Director. He was only 27. The rebellious teen who almost flunked out of school was now being honored as one of the best young directors in the country. However, Gary's Hollywood journey was far from easy. In 1979, Gary Sinise thought he was ready to take over Hollywood. He was only 24, but he'd already co-founded Chicago's Steppenwolf Theater Company and earned a solid reputation on stage. He believed he'd be the next James Dean, so he packed up and moved to Los Angeles, full of confidence and hope. What followed was 10 months of disappointment and silence. The only work he got was a blink-and-you-miss-it role as a boy on the beach in Knots Landing. That was it. No spotlight, no big break. Just a lonely phone that never rang. Sinise later called the whole thing miserable. The rejection hit so hard that he gave up and returned to Chicago. His dream was crushed, and for over 10 years, he didn't seriously try Hollywood again. But giving up on acting didn't mean giving up on storytelling. In a twist few saw coming, Sinise found his way into the industry not as an actor, but as a director. In 1986, he began directing episodes of Crime Story, a crime drama set in 1960s Las Vegas. The show gave him a chance to show off his visual skills and get his foot in the door. Then, in 1989, he directed episodes of the acclaimed TV series 30-something, which was known for its emotional depth and realism. By 1988, Sinise had stepped up to the big screen, directing Miles from Home, a film about struggling farmers in the Midwest. Richard Gere starred, and Sinise's style behind the camera got serious attention. For many, it looked like his future was in directing, not acting. That changed in 1992. Sinise took a role in A Midnight Clear, a small but powerful war film set during the Battle of the Bulge. He played Vance Mother Wilkins, a soldier on the edge, haunted by the death of his child back home. The film didn't make money. It brought in only $1.5 million against a $5 million budget, but critics loved it. Roger Ebert praised the entire cast, and Sinise's performance stood out. He played pain and unpredictability with rare precision. But the film was too intense for mainstream audiences. It became a forgotten gem, a movie people missed but should have seen. For Sinise, though, it was a key moment, proof that he could act on screen at the highest level. Later that same year, he made a bold move. He directed, produced, and starred in Of Mice and Men, playing George Milton opposite John Malkovich's Lenny. It was his passion project, and he poured everything into it. The film was chosen for the 1992 Cannes Film Festival and earned a Palme d'Or nomination. Sinise didn't just act, he shaped the entire film. Horton Foote wrote the screenplay, and critics praised how the story captured loneliness, dreams, and despair during the Great Depression. The movie confirmed Sinise's artistic talent and showed that he could balance both sides of the camera. He was no longer just a theater guy trying to make it in film. He was the real deal. Between 1983 and 1993, Sinise was grinding. He wasn't yet a star, but he was earning respect. He kept working with Steppenwolf in Chicago, doing plays like True West alongside John Malkovich. That performance was so raw, it was recorded for PBS. He also earned Tony nominations for both acting and directing, gaining credibility in the theater world while still pushing toward film. He stayed patient. When asked about the long road, Sinise said, "Careers, like rockets, don't always take off on time. The trick is to always keep the engine running." That quiet determination would finally pay off. In 1994, Sinise starred in the miniseries The Stand, based on Stephen King's apocalyptic novel. He played Stu Redman, a survivor in a world destroyed by plague. The series aired on ABC and ran for over 6 hours. It was intense, dramatic, and gave Sinise a platform to show just how much he'd grown. The role helped build momentum, but it was just the warm-up. His life was about to change forever. That same year, he auditioned for Forrest Gump. The role was Lieutenant Dan Taylor, a Vietnam vet who loses both legs and spirals into anger and addiction before finding peace. It was a difficult role. The director, Robert Zemeckis, and star Tom Hanks needed someone who could go deep. Sinise didn't just act. He studied veterans, talked to amputees, and immersed himself in their world. His audition hit hard. He got the role. Playing Lieutenant Dan required a full transformation. Sinise worked with medical professionals to understand prosthetics and how double amputees moved. But the real challenge was emotional. Lieutenant Dan was bitter, broken, and angry. Sinise had to show all of it: the rage, the sorrow, and finally, the acceptance. The performance was unforgettable. Critics praised it, audiences connected with it, and veterans saw themselves in it. The film was a global hit, and Sinise's role became iconic. In the mid-90s, Gary Sinise wasn't just rising. He was exploding into the top ranks of Hollywood. After years of building respect on stage and in smaller roles, 1995 changed everything. That year, he reunited with Tom Hanks in Apollo 13. The film told the gripping real-life story of NASA's troubled moon mission, and Sinise played astronaut Ken Mattingly, the grounded team member who worked furiously from Earth to help save the crew. His performance was sharp and emotional, striking the perfect balance of tension and heart. Apollo 13 made over $355 million worldwide on a $62 million budget. It became Universal's highest-grossing film of the year and earned 9 Oscar nominations. Critics and audiences took notice. Suddenly, Sinise wasn't just respected, he was bankable. His chemistry with Hanks and his ability to hold his own in a high-stakes story proved he was ready for the big league. That same year, Sinise made a dramatic turn on television with Truman, playing President Harry S. Truman in a serious biographical film for HBO. He spent months preparing, studying Truman's voice, his walk, his thinking. He even consulted Truman's daughter to get it right. When it aired in September 1995, over 8.6 million viewers tuned in. His performance was praised as one of the most realistic portrayals of a U.S. president ever broadcast. Awards followed. He won a Golden Globe and a Screen Actors Guild Award, and earned an Emmy nomination. Sinise had proven he could lead, whether it was in space or in the White House. More importantly, he showed he could carry weighty stories with authenticity. Then came George Wallace in 1997, a role most actors would avoid. Sinise portrayed the controversial Alabama governor, known for his racist policies and political flip-flops. It wasn't an easy character to play, and it wasn't meant to be. The film, aired over 2 nights in August, drew more than 21 million viewers. Sinise captured every contradiction in Wallace: his charm, his cruelty, his ambition, and his regret. The performance won him an Emmy in 1998, beating strong contenders like Stanley Tucci. Critics said he brought a disturbing humanity to a divisive figure. It was risky, and it paid off. While television showed his range, Hollywood kept calling. Between 1996 and 2000, Sinise stacked up blockbuster roles like a true movie star. In Ransom, 1996, he was the villain, a rogue FBI agent played with icy calm. That film brought in $309 million globally. Then came Snake Eyes in 1998, where he played a crooked cop opposite Nicolas Cage. It didn't get great reviews, but still made $103 million worldwide. In 1999, he joined The Green Mile as Brutal Howell, the tough but kind-hearted prison guard. The film was a hit, earning over $286 million and 4 Oscar nominations. Even his misfire, Mission to Mars in 2000, which cost $100 million and only earned $111 million back, showed studios trusted him with leading roles in massive projects. He was a rare mix, an actor who could lead, support, and shift between heroes and villains with ease. But Sinise wasn't only chasing box office numbers, he was also chasing respect. He'd already directed and starred in Of Mice and Men back in 1992. That film made it to the main competition at Cannes, the most elite film festival in the world. Being selected meant something. It meant the film had weight. That same level of recognition came earlier with Miles from Home in 1988, which also competed at Cannes. Most actors never get there once. Sinise got there twice. It sent a clear message. He wasn't just a performer, He was an artist. Can opened doors that box office numbers couldn't. It showed the world he was serious about the craft. In 2004, Gary Sinise shocked Hollywood. He walked away from big movie roles and stepped into a weekly TV series. After earning an Oscar nomination for Forrest Gump and praise for Apollo 13, no one expected him to join a network crime show. Back then, television wasn't a place for serious film actors. But Sinise saw something others didn't. Instead of waiting months between movies, he could now reach millions every week. And CSI NY wasn't just a job, it became a platform. His character, Mac Taylor, was a former Marine who served with discipline and integrity. It wasn't just fiction. That character reflected Sinise's real passion for helping veterans. He found a way to act and serve at the same time. Mac Taylor didn't just pop up on screen one night. CBS played it smart. In May 2004, Sinise's character appeared in a special episode of CSI Miami. Mac flew to Florida to track a killer on the run. That single episode introduced him to millions. A year later, the two shows teamed up again with another crossover. This time, a killer was being flown from New York to Miami. These joint episodes weren't just good TV, they were strategy. They warmed audiences up to Mac Taylor before CSI NY launched. Viewers already knew him. They'd seen him work. When the new show started, it didn't feel new at all. That crossover blueprint worked so well, it later became the standard for expanding franchises across network TV. Once the series launched, it didn't slow down. Sinise worked non-stop for 9 years. From 2004 to 2013, he appeared in every one of the show's 197 episodes. Only 3 other actors matched that. They filmed up to 24 episodes a year. Each one took long hours, sometimes 12 to 16 per day. But Sinise didn't just act. By season 2, he became a producer. He even helped write stories. And somehow, he kept acting in movies too, like I Still Believe and Joe Bell. At the same time, he expanded his foundation work. It was exhausting, but it paid off. Later, he admitted that those years let him save up and step back. It gave him the freedom to focus on things that mattered more than fame. And the show itself? A massive hit. Even in its final season, it pulled nearly 10 million viewers. Earlier seasons had even more. That's impressive for a show airing on Friday nights, a tough slot for ratings. For many people, Sinise stopped being Lieutenant Dan. He became Detective Mac Taylor. The show reached audiences far beyond America. It aired in over 200 countries. People everywhere saw this calm, disciplined detective solving crimes. Even before all that, Sinise had already put himself in danger for something bigger than acting. Since 2003, he made 5 trips to war zones, 4 to Iraq and 1 to Afghanistan. These weren't short visits. He didn't just show up for a handshake and a camera, he stayed. He performed concerts in makeshift tents, met wounded soldiers in field hospitals, and traveled with convoys through combat zones. He was there during the height of the war, when every visit came with real risk. Mortar attacks, IED threats, and gunfire weren't just possibilities. They were expected, but he kept showing up, and because of that, the troops trusted him. He wasn't a celebrity playing a role. He was one of them. In 2004, he took that trust and gave it a soundtrack. He formed the Lieutenant Dan Band, named after the character that made him famous. But this wasn't a vanity project. This was a mobile morale machine. The band didn't play safe gigs in air-conditioned arenas. They went where the soldiers were, in dangerous zones, far from home. They played classic rock, pop, and military anthems to raise spirits and offer a break from the stress of war. For many troops, those concerts were the only joy they had all year. And Sinise didn't stop. Over the years, the band has played in over 500 shows, including dozens in overseas combat zones. By 2011, Sinise realized his impact needed structure. That year, he created the Gary Sinise Foundation. What started as a mission to help wounded veterans soon expanded. The foundation now builds smart homes tailored to disabled vets, helps first responders, supports military families, and funds mental health programs. They combine entertainment, rehabilitation, and education, all under one mission: to serve and honor those who sacrifice. They've built dozens of homes with adaptive technology, designed to help veterans regain control of their lives. The work is personal for Sinise, but it's also professional. He knows how to run an operation, raise funds, and bring people together. He used his fame to create something that will last long after his acting career fades. In the summer of 2018, Gary Sinise's world came crashing down. First came the news that his wife, Moira Harris, had stage 3 breast cancer. She needed surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, the full fight. Gary was devastated, but just as they were bracing for her treatment, another blow hit. On August 8th, their 27-year-old son, Mac, was diagnosed with chordoma, a cancer so rare only about 300 Americans are diagnosed with it each year. It attacked his spine. In the space of 2 months, both his wife and son were fighting for their lives. What started as back pain for Mac quickly turned into something terrifying. When Gary saw the MRI, he said it looked like a monster grabbing my son's spine. That image would never leave him. Chordoma grows silently, often undetected, until it begins doing serious damage. By the time it revealed itself, the tumor was already threatening Mac's ability to walk, and his future was hanging by a thread. But this wasn't the first time Gary's family had been tested. Back in the mid-1990s, as his Hollywood career was soaring after Forrest Gump, his home life was falling apart. Moira was battling alcoholism. Gary tried to hide the bottles, but she kept finding new places to stash them. It got so bad, he had to take the kids and leave. Her turning point came in a church basement in Chicago, where a woman urged her to convert to Catholicism. That spiritual moment changed everything. After a 3-month rehab in 1997, Moira got sober, and she stayed that way for more than 20 years. But nothing could prepare them for 2018. While Moira went through rounds of chemo, Gary took on a new role: caretaker and coordinator for both her and Mac. He called himself the air traffic controller. At one point, Mac was on 25 different cancer medications. Gary managed it all: research, appointments, drugs, surgeries. He lived in a constant state of urgency, barely stopping to breathe. "Have a happy day," he told Mac. "I'll worry about the cancer." But privately, he felt helpless. When nothing seemed to work, he'd say a prayer, then go right back to fighting. By 2019, Gary made a heartbreaking decision. He told his team, "I couldn't leave home." That one sentence ended his acting career. He turned down major roles in films and series like Joe Bell and 13 Reasons Why. His career had spanned decades, but now it came second. Mac came first. Then came the worst part. In 2020, the cancer paralyzed Mac from the chest down. He couldn't move, couldn't live independently. Gary became a full-time caregiver. He helped his son with everything: feeding, bathing, medical machines, even lifting him from bed to wheelchair. The emotional weight was crushing. Watching Mac suffer was agony, but giving up was never an option. And still, Mac found a way to create. Paralyzed but determined, he strapped a stylus to his hand and used it to compose music on his laptop. One of his pieces, Arctic Circles, stunned everyone. With help from his friend Oliver Schnee, Mac kept composing, even when his body was failing. His music became his voice. In 2021, Gary moved the foundation's headquarters to Franklin, Tennessee. He needed calm. Mac needed quiet. The new location offered both. The foundation, which had raised over $400 million for veterans and first responders, now had a new mission: cancer support. Inspired by Mac's battle, it expanded to help others facing the same nightmare. Then, in July 2023, Mac completed the most important recording of his life. members of Gary's Latin Dan band came together to record Mac's music. It wasn't just a session, it was a final gift. The recording captured a young man's spirit in full bloom, even as his body was fading. Everyone knew what it meant. Mac was saying goodbye, but on his terms. On January 5, 2024, at 3:25 p.m., Mac passed away after 5 brutal years of fighting. He was 33. His funeral was held on January 23rd. After his death, Gary found more music, dozens of files on Mac's phone, Dropbox, iPad, songs he wrote in college, unused scores from Gary's Foundation videos, hidden gems. This led to Resurrection and Revival, Part 2, a double vinyl release with 17 originals and 2 covers. In total, 19 tracks. The album came out on November 10, 2024, Mac's 34th birthday. Every cent made from those albums now goes to the Gary Sinise Foundation, just as Mac wanted. They're available in special packages, starting at $45 and going up to $99 for a deluxe edition signed by Gary himself. What started as a personal outlet for Mac has become a fundraising powerhouse for causes he cared about deeply. For Gary, the healing came from an unexpected place, his grandchildren. After Mac's death, he leaned into being Papa to 5 little ones, all between the ages of 1 and 8. They belong to his daughters, Sophie and Ella. He drives them to school. He takes them to trampoline parks. Chuck E. Cheese is now one of his most visited spots. They know they'll get fed a lot of ice cream, Gary admits. Hugs flow endlessly at Papa's house, and for a man shattered by loss, this love has become his anchor. The family had moved to Tennessee in 2023. It was cheaper, quieter, and closer to military bases. Another reason that mattered deeply to Gary. After losing his acting income, the move made sense. But more than that, it brought him physically closer to his daughters and grandchildren. "This is my favorite role now," he says. Not actor, not celebrity, just Papa. But that doesn't mean Gary's story has ended. His foundation, which started in 2011 to support veterans and first responders, has grown. Mac's long illness changed its mission. Cancer support is now part of its work. That shift wasn't just symbolic, it was personal. Mac had contributed music for the Foundation's projects for years. He was deeply involved and planned to become a leader in it. After his passing, his albums began fueling the same mission he once dreamed of leading. Since its creation, the Foundation has raised over $400 million. Mac's contributions, both musical and spiritual, are now stitched into its future. The work continues, not just in his memory, but powered by his voice. And what about Hollywood? Gary is 70 now. In a 2025 interview, he said, "Something may come along. He hasn't ruled out acting, but he won't take any job that pulls him away from home for too long. Not anymore. If the right thing came along and the timing was good, I'd consider it," he said. But acting isn't the priority. His family is. His foundation is. Mac's music is. He spent 9 years on CSI, NY, and that gave him enough savings to say no now. "I can be selective," he says, and that freedom means more than any new role. He's built a quieter life in rural Tennessee, a life with purpose, a life centered around healing, family, and keeping his son's legacy alive.